Arguments from navigating the new normal, why this happens, and the number one thing that you can do to stop it. For those of you who are new to the group, I am Dr. Annette Athey, and I am so happy that you are here. I am a child development expert and grief specialist, and I've been working in the field with children and families for 20 years. I'm also a mother of 4 and have helped my own kids navigate their grief through many losses that we have had over the years. So if you stick around today, at the end of the video, I will share with you how to get a spot for a free 15-minute grief to healing call. And for those of you who are here and know the drill, if you will spread the love for our video and comment #live or #replay, that helps me keep our video in the news feed, and then that way those who couldn't make it here today at this time can catch the replay or see that it's been posted. So as we focus today on how to navigate that new grief normal, specifically, we are talking about the stuff. The property, the possessions, the contents of when someone passes away, what do you do with their things? And how does this affect your children? And for those of you who have been in our Facebook for a while, back in August, Cassie King posted a post that had been going around on Facebook about an orange cup. And for those of you who might be interested in reading the whole thing, you can either search in our Facebook group Orange Cup, or you can look under Cassie's name. But what the little, it had a picture of the orange cup, and then it had a little explanation to what this orange cup meant. And the lady who had written the little post had talked about how important or significant this orange cup was, that it was in the bathroom and it was the last thing that reminded her of, I believe, her husband. And it was the bathroom cup that he used when he brushed his teeth to take a drink in the morning. And she was talking about how difficult it was to get rid of or even just move the orange cup out of the bathroom. So what I'm wondering for all of you, and for those of you who might be here with us tonight, or if you're catching the replay, when you think about items in your household, and specifically I'm talking about items that maybe were commonly used by the person who died, or items that remind you of the person who died, do these items bring you pain or comfort? And so if you want to comment in the chat, pain or comfort, when you think about these items. And then my next question to you would be, do you know how your kids would answer this question? Do they see those things the same way that you do? So if we stay with the orange cup, is that something, if you saw this orange cup in the bathroom every day, would it bring you pain or would it bring you comfort? And how would your child respond? Would that cup have the same meaning to them that it does to you? And I'm here today to say that we may think that these items bring the same feelings to our kids that they do to us, but they don't always. They may have a different meaning or a different significance. Maybe as an adult, it brings us comfort to know that that cup's still there and it just brings a positive memory of this person. But to our kids, it might be a constant reminder of my dad is gone. My dad's not coming back. Or it may increase anger. And that anger response, because it's actually triggered by sadness, seeing that every morning and every night. So the first thing when you wake up, because most of us go use the bathroom, brush our teeth first thing in the morning, same thing at nighttime. For our kids, that orange cup may be a trigger. It may be why they don't want to go in the bathroom, why they don't want to brush their teeth, why they don't want to have any part of that orange cup, because it could be triggering something in them of more of a pain than a comfort. When we think of items bringing us comfort, the first thing is we want to keep everything. We want to keep everything that our loved one touched, everything that our loved one held dear to them. We want to keep. We don't want to get rid of anything. And so we find ourselves then maybe moving their entire household in with us, or keeping every item, even though that means now we have 3 of everything. Or it may mean that suddenly every little tiny piece of what we would have deemed as trash before is now this loving thing that we just can't bear to get rid of, because if we get rid of it, then we're somehow destroying or losing our connection to the one who died. For other people, these same items, again, referring back to that orange cup, it could equal pain. And so suddenly we want to get rid of everything, and we want to get rid of everything as soon as possible. So I've worked with many families where they come in and see me 3 or 4 months after the loss, and already in those 3 months, they have gotten rid of the person's clothing, the person's pictures on the wall, the person's, um, all of their maybe sentimental things or collector items or anything that they held dear. They've gotten out of the house. They don't wanna look at it, they don't wanna see it, they don't wanna talk about it. They don't care whether it went to the trash, they don't care if it went to family, they just needed it out of their house. This is more of a pain response, in the belief that if I get rid of it all, this loss won't hurt so much. I won't feel so bad, because now I don't have to look at it. Now I don't have these reminders. As the child, and again, depending on the age of your children, did you include them in these conversations? I would love for any of you to respond if this is something that you did or didn't do, if you included them or not. And I see that one of our listeners said, I think both. So absolutely, we're going to have combinations of both. This isn't necessarily something where we only did one or the other. I know for myself, when my dad died, his partner wanted to get rid of a lot of things. I couldn't bear to get rid of anything. So what happened was every time something was removed from my dad's house, it came to mine. And then I needed time to look at it and hold it and think about it and decide, is this really something I need to hold on to for the next 50 years? But it was really hard to decide what had meaning and what didn't, other than the fact of this used to be my dad's. That was the driving force at first. So I have a couple recommendations of how you can help your kids in this process. And the first one is to slow the process down. Slow it down for your kids. So even though you, as the parent, might be reacting in a pain response and wanting to get rid of everything because everything feels like a trigger, if you need it out of your space, put it in a tote, put it in a container, or move it to a room that you don't spend a lot of time in, but try not to remove it from your house. In slowing this down, this gives our kids an opportunity to soak in that things are different. Things have changed, but now my environment doesn't have to feel like it's extremely different. It's not going to look different. The absence of the person is already going to be felt and known, but if everything else in the environment is still there, they're still bringing comfort. So slowing it down, again, as adults, sometimes we get in a hurry and we want to just get the job done, or we have this week off, so we want to take advantage and we want to process through this really quickly. Our kids can't process that quickly. And it's not a measure of intelligence. It is more from the standpoint of they don't have a reference point. They don't quite understand this permanent loss, and so they're trying to wrap their head around that. But if you start removing contents, that's something that they could see, something that was tangible, something they could touch. And now you're removing these touch points for them, and it makes it harder for them to process the loss because then they suddenly begin believing everything I love, people and possessions, start disappearing. They don't come back. So the second one would be let your kids be part of the process. I would love for those of you who are watching today or watching the replay, did you let your kids be involved? Now, if you did, if you want to respond yes, if you did not let them be part of the cleaning up and the going through items, if you want to comment no, that kind of lets me know where or how much your kids were involved. So the reason why letting your kids be involved is important is your kids are going to deem importance on different items than you do. I mean, if you think about for most of you as parents, when we say it's time to clean your room, most kids, especially kids under 10, how many of them become trash collectors? And they want to keep this piece of paper and they want to keep this um, screw that they might have found on a walk, or this piece of metal, or things that as parents we're like, this is easy, this is trash, throw it out, you don't need this. And they are desperate to say, no, no, I need that, I want that. Um, and this is important because, again, having them part of the process is helpful in their grief journey. And I apologize for the person who has commented. If you click on the StreamYard link and give them permission to show your name, then I'd be able to see your name. But for the Facebook user who did respond, to some extent, it was overwhelming. I let her keep all the things she wanted or wasn't sure about. And that's great. That's great that you gave her some choice. And yes, absolutely, it is overwhelming. It's overwhelming to have our kids involved, especially if they are younger, because most likely they're going to be collectors. They're going to want to keep everything. Sometimes you can help that by providing maybe a small size box or maybe a tote, depending on how much room you have or want to allow your child to keep, and say, you can have this many things or enough things that will fill this container. But once the container's filled, you may not keep anything else. And so this also helps our kids kind of prioritize. So now suddenly they're not collecting everything and they're going back in and resorting and looking at. The other part that's important is, as a parent, sometimes we think we know what our kids, um, what they need or want, or what they should keep. And I think this is one that it comes from a good place and the intent is well meaning, but sometimes we pick out an item that maybe has no meaning to our child. And for instance, my example of this would be after my grandparents had both passed away. I was the only grandkid who couldn't come home over a holiday break to go through her things. And so my mom and my cousins and my aunt decided which items would be mine. And unfortunately, when I look at the items in the box, there are only about two or three that have meaning or significance to me. The other things in the box, a few of them I didn't even recognize, and a couple of them I know they were trying to keep things even, where all the granddaughters got this certain thing, all the grandsons got this certain thing, but most of them do not help me feel connected to my grandparents. So again, having them involved, no matter what age they are, and it may be that they keep a truck or a toy that they played with at grandma's house. And then you pick out a few things that seem meaningful or things that you know your child would treasure when they get older, but they're not necessarily age appropriate now. And again, this goes for whether we're talking about a parent loss, a grandparent loss, a sibling loss. You can apply these things for any of those losses. The other thing that I find really helpful with the families that I have worked with is that if you go through items and maybe you go through the pictures and you find a picture of your child with their parent or grandparent that has maybe a toy or a picture or an item in the background, having that physical object with the picture helps retain and build that memory. And so there's a connecting point with their loved one in the picture and seeing the same object in real life, not just in the picture. So that may be something also to consider when you are looking and trying to sort through what's needed or what's not needed. And definitely the parent who had responded earlier about, um, you know, keeping a box of the things that she wasn't sure about. That's great. That allows her to go back at a later time. And so if she is overwhelmed, she still has the option. It's not gone or lost forever or sold on an auction or donated. She can go back. And like I mentioned, lots of times as we move through this grief journey, we're less connected to the stuff because we've found different ways to connect with our loved one. So, for those of you who are here, whether you're watching live or the replay, if you are interested in a free 15-minute grief to healing clarification call, I would love for you to comment #trash, because one man's trash is another man's treasure. And that's kind of the theme of what we are talking about today. But I would love to talk with you about your child's grief to healing journey and some steps where I can give you specific, individual, not cookie cutter things to work on or address so that your child is moving along on their healing journey. I hope that today's video was helpful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat, and I look forward to seeing you in the group. Have a great day.